Once the most feared Mafia family in America, the name Gambino struck terror across the streets of New York. But today, what remains of their empire? Who runs it now? And how do they operate in 2025? The Gambino crime family has always been a name that evokes both fear and fascination. A legacy etched into the streets of New York City and the annals of organized crime history. It began with Carlo Gambino, a man whose quiet demeanor masked an iron will and a calculating mind capable of building one of the most powerful criminal empires in America. Born in Palermo, Sicily, Carlo immigrated to the United States, bringing with him the old-world codes of honor, secrecy, and ruthlessness that would define his leadership style. In the years following World War II, as America boomed and New York grew into a sprawling metropolis, the opportunities for organized crime expanded, and Gambino seized them with precision. He understood that power was not merely about violence. It was about control, influence, and the ability to manipulate systems from the shadows. Under his reign, the family consolidated influence over a wide range of illicit operations, from traditional racketeering and extortion to gambling enterprises that reached into both the working-class neighborhoods and the glitzy casinos that dotted the nation's landscape. Gambino's rise was subtle yet unstoppable, marked by careful alliances, strategic betrayals, and a network of enforcers who executed his vision with lethal efficiency. By the time the 1970s rolled around, the family had become synonymous with both wealth and fear. It was during this era that John Gotti, known later as the Dapper Don, for his flamboyant style and charisma, emerged as one of the most notorious figures in organized crime history. Gotti's rise through the ranks was marked by ambition, audacity, and a flair for public attention that contrasted sharply with Gambino's discreet approach. While Carlo Gambino preferred to operate quietly behind the scenes, Gotti understood the power of image and media, often courting headlines and cultivating a persona that would both intimidate rivals and captivate the public. His presence transformed the family's identity in the cultural imagination, turning mobsters from shadowy figures into almost mythic icons. Their exploits chronicled in newspapers, magazines, and later television documentaries that blurred the line between reality and legend. The crimes committed under the Gambino banner were numerous and far-reaching, a testament to both ambition and organizational sophistication. Racketeering formed the backbone of their operations, allowing the family to exert control over businesses, labor unions, and entire neighborhoods. Extortion was a daily practice, with local merchants, construction companies, and even unions forced to pay for protection that, more often than not, was protection from the very enforcers who demanded it. Gambling was another major revenue stream, ranging from underground poker rings and sports betting networks to more sophisticated operations that connected to Las Vegas and other major gambling hubs. These activities were conducted with a careful balance of secrecy and intimidation, ensuring that while the public might suspect the family's reach, few could point directly to evidence that would lead to arrests or convictions. Beyond the tangible crimes, the Gambino family wielded immense social and cultural influence. They became symbols of power in the Italian-American community and beyond, their names whispered in fear and awe. Movies like The Godfather drew heavily on the imagery and ethos of families like the Gambinos. transforming their actions into a form of high art that both glamorized and condemned the world they inhabited. The media coverage of John Gotti's trials, his flamboyant appearances, and his ultimate convictions further cemented the family's place in popular culture. From documentaries to fictionalized accounts, the story of the Gambino family was retold countless times, each version adding layers to the legend. The allure of wealth, power, and danger made them figures not only to be feared, but to be studied, emulated, and mythologized. Yet behind the public spectacle lay a world of strict hierarchy, loyalty, and internal discipline that ensured the family's survival through decades of law enforcement scrutiny. Initiation rituals, codes of conduct, and complex chains of command reinforced a structure that made betrayal and disorder costly. Soldiers answered to capos, who answered to underbosses, all ultimately accountable to the boss, creating a vertical organization that mirrored both a corporate entity and a paramilitary unit. Carlo Gambino's genius was in maintaining this structure without attracting undue attention, while Gotti's challenge was to manage it under the harsh glare of public and legal scrutiny. Their successes and failures were intertwined, shaping the trajectory of the family as it navigated an era of both opportunity and heightened law enforcement vigilance. During their peak, the Gambino family's influence extended beyond New York. They established connections with other crime families across the United States and internationally, creating a network that allowed for the expansion of their operations in multiple sectors. These alliances were often fragile, maintained through a combination of mutual benefit, fear, and occasional violence. Gotti's tenure introduced a new dimension to these relationships, as his high-profile persona sometimes provoked conflict with other families who resented the attention or feared encroachment on their territories. Still, the family endured, demonstrating a resilience rooted in decades of strategic thinking, discipline, and a willingness to adapt to changing circumstances. The peak cultural impact of the Gambinos cannot be understated. They became archetypes in literature, film, and television, serving as the template for the modern understanding of organized crime. The public fascination with Mafia life, its codes, ceremonies, and moral ambiguities, was fueled by both fact and fiction. Journalists and authors chronicled their deeds with a mixture of admiration and horror, and the family's story became a lens through which broader societal issues were examined, including immigration, urban development, and the intersection of legality and morality. This duality, real-world danger and cultural fascination, ensured that the Gambinos' narrative would endure, influencing generations of writers, filmmakers, and historians. Within the family itself, the tension between tradition and modernity played out in complex ways. Older members adhered to the Sicilian codes of secrecy and honor, while younger generations, particularly under Gotti's influence, embraced visibility, charisma, and media manipulation. This created internal friction but also allowed for evolution, as the family sought to maintain power in a rapidly changing social and legal environment. Despite high-profile arrests and convictions, the core of the family persisted, demonstrating that even in the face of aggressive prosecution and public scrutiny, the structures built by Carlo Gambino were resilient. In the neighborhoods of Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island, the Gambino family's presence was both tangible and symbolic. Local businesses, construction projects, and even social networks were influenced directly or indirectly by their operations. Residents often spoke in hushed tones of the family's reach, aware that their influence was both pervasive and carefully managed. Law enforcement faced constant challenges in penetrating these networks, as members adhered to strict codes of silence and loyalty, and outsiders found it difficult to discern who wielded power or how decisions were made. The family's ability to operate in this liminal space, between legality and criminality, visibility and secrecy, was a defining feature of its longevity. At the same time, public fascination grew. People were drawn not only to the fearsome reputation of figures like John Gotti, but to the larger narrative of ambition, strategy, and survival. The family became a subject of endless inquiry, debate, and storytelling, their lives dissected for lessons about power, influence, and human behavior. The mixture of brutality and sophistication, legality and criminality, created a narrative that was endlessly compelling. Every arrest, trial, or media appearance added to the tapestry of myth and reality that surrounded the Gambinos, ensuring that they remained relevant long after the immediate headlines faded. The Gambino family's story is also one of adaptation. From the post-war era through the late 20th century, they navigated changing social norms, law enforcement strategies, and economic opportunities. They moved fluidly between visible and hidden spheres of influence, capitalizing on weaknesses in regulation, exploiting business opportunities, and leveraging personal relationships to maintain power. While the tactics evolved, the principles of loyalty, secrecy, and strategic calculation remained constant, allowing the family to endure in an environment that claimed many of its contemporaries. Despite the glamour and cultural fascination, the human cost of their activities was enormous. Rivalries led to violence, internal purges, and a cycle of revenge that claimed many lives. Families, associates, and communities were affected by the operations of the Gambinos, creating a legacy of fear and control that extended far beyond the immediate criminal acts. This duality, celebrated in popular culture, feared in real life, defines much of the allure and horror of the Gambino family's narrative. As the 21st century unfolded, the family faced new challenges. Increased law enforcement resources, advances in surveillance and forensic technology, and changing social attitudes toward organized crime placed pressure on traditional operations. Yet the Gambinos, like their forebears, adapted. They diversified activities, sought legitimacy where possible, and retained core structures that ensured continuity. The contrast between their historical peak under Gambino and Gotti and their modern operations illustrates the resilience and pragmatism that have kept the family alive despite numerous setbacks. In the end, the story of the Gambino crime family is a story of power, survival, and myth-making. It is the tale of men who understood the dynamics of fear and influence, who leveraged both violence and strategy to build empires, and who became icons in both real and imagined worlds. Their legacy is visible not only in law enforcement records and historical accounts, but in the enduring fascination of the public, in films, books, and documentaries that continue to explore their lives. The narrative is both cautionary and compelling, a testament to the complex interplay between ambition, morality, and survival in the underworld of organized crime. The streets of New York may have changed, but the shadow of the Gambinos remains. Their story is a reminder that power is never fully extinguished, that legacy is built over decades, and that the most influential families leave marks not just on cities, but on the imagination of generations. From Carlo Gambino's calculated rise to John Gotti's flamboyant dominance, the family's history offers lessons in strategy, loyalty, and the sometimes thin line between legend and reality. Even today, the echoes of their influence can be felt in neighborhoods, businesses, and popular culture, a testament to a dynasty that, despite legal challenges and internal conflicts, continues to captivate the world. The Gambino's tale is more than just a history of crime. It is a story of human ambition, of societal structures, and of the ways in which power, once attained, shapes both those who wield it and the world around them. It is a narrative that intertwines fear and fascination, brutality and intelligence, secrecy and spectacle. The family's ability to command respect, manipulate perception, and maintain relevance through decades of societal and legal change underscores their enduring significance. Their operations, once overt and audacious, have evolved, yet the principles remain: control, influence, and strategic calculation. Even as public attention has waned, the structures established by Carlo Gambino and reinforced by John Gotti ensure the family's continued existence. Observers, historians, and storytellers remain captivated, dissecting each move, each trial, each anecdote for insights into a world that is as complex as it is shadowy. Ultimately, the Gambino family's history is a story of adaptation and resilience. From the streets of mid-century New York to the modern urban landscape, they navigated challenges with a combination of caution and boldness. Their legacy, both feared and romanticized, continues to influence contemporary perceptions of organized crime. As their story unfolds in the 21st century, the family remains a symbol of both the allure and danger of power, a reminder that some legacies are never fully forgotten, and that even in the face of adversity, the name Gambino still carries weight. Even decades after the era of Carlo Gambino and John Gotti, the Gambino crime family remains a presence in New York's underworld, albeit in a form that is quieter, more calculated, and far less visible than during their peak. While the golden age of flamboyant displays of power may be behind them, the family's ability to adapt has allowed it to survive and maintain influence in the criminal ecosystem. Leadership today is a matter of careful discretion, with Domenico Cefalù widely recognized as the official boss of the family since 2011, though some sources suggest Lorenzo Mannino exerts considerable influence as well, highlighting the often disputed nature of Mafia leadership in the modern era. These men, unlike Gotti, operate under the radar, understanding that visibility can be dangerous, that media attention and law enforcement scrutiny are as lethal as rival factions in the streets. The operations of the Gambino family in 2025 reflect a mix of traditional and modern criminal enterprises, designed to generate revenue while minimizing public exposure. Illegal gambling remains one of the family's core activities, with networks that span Staten Island, Brooklyn, and Queens. These operations are sophisticated, using both physical venues and online betting platforms to expand reach. Extortion continues to be a method of ensuring steady income, targeting local businesses, unions, and carting companies. By infiltrating unions and exploiting labor systems, the family exerts control over industries that may seem mundane to outsiders, but are lucrative in the hands of organized crime. These strategies, rooted in decades of institutional knowledge, allow the Gambinos to operate efficiently while avoiding the high-profile attention that marked the days of the Dapper Don. Recent law enforcement actions demonstrate both the ongoing threat the family poses and the persistence of their operations despite legal pressure. In 2023, a coordinated US-Italy operation led to the arrest of 16 members and associates. This multinational effort targeted a range of criminal activities, including racketeering, extortion, witness retaliation, and corruption within unions and carting companies. The indictments revealed the depth and sophistication of the family's influence, highlighting how members used legitimate businesses as fronts to control markets, demand no-show jobs, and collect protection money. These arrests were significant, not only for the immediate impact on operations, but also for the insight they provided into the modern Gambino structure, showing that even as the family had become less publicly visible, its reach remained extensive. The following year, in 2024, law enforcement struck again, charging 17 individuals affiliated with the Gambino family in connection to a massive illegal gambling and loan sharking operation on Staten Island. The operation reportedly generated over $22 million in illegal bets, underscoring the continued profitability of their networks. Soldiers and associates were implicated in enterprise corruption, promoting gambling and criminal usury, demonstrating that the family's methods have evolved, but the fundamental principles, control, coercion, and revenue generation, remain unchanged. These charges reflect a calculated balance between risk and reward, as the family navigates the modern legal landscape with an understanding that exposure can be financially and operationally catastrophic. Despite these legal challenges, the internal structure of the family remains intact, ensuring continuity. Domenico Cefalù and other high-ranking members continue to supervise captains and soldiers who oversee day-to-day operations, maintaining discipline and loyalty across the organization. The vertical hierarchy, a hallmark of the family since its inception, allows for both operational efficiency and plausible deniability. Orders flow downward, while information is tightly controlled, limiting the exposure of top leadership to both rivals and law enforcement. This structure, combined with decades of experience, enables the Gambinos to survive setbacks that would cripple lesser organizations, ensuring that even after significant arrests, the family can continue to function. The contrast between the public perception of the Gambino family and their actual operations is stark. Where once Gotti's flamboyance captured headlines and provoked fear in equal measure, today's leadership is deliberate in obscuring their presence. Surveillance, digital communications, and sophisticated financial strategies allow the family to conduct business in ways that are difficult to detect or prosecute. The modern Gambino is less about public spectacle and more about calculated influence, leveraging connections within unions, businesses, and local government to secure advantage. This strategic discretion ensures survival, while continuing to generate revenue streams that rival those of legitimate enterprises. Public fascination persists, however, fueled by arrests, indictments, and the occasional high-profile news story. Media coverage of the 2023 and 2024 operations provided snapshots of the family in action, with mugshots, courtroom images, and crime scene footage offering rare glimpses into a world usually shrouded in secrecy. These events remind the public that while the days of overt violence and street battles may have declined, the Gambino family remains a force, capable of influence and coercion on multiple levels. They are a shadowy presence in the modern city, embedded within the everyday structures of commerce and labor, operating quietly but effectively. The evolution of the Gambinos also reflects broader changes in organized crime. Whereas previous generations relied heavily on physical intimidation and public displays of power, modern mafias often exploit legal grey areas, financial systems, and technological platforms. By investing in legitimate businesses, laundering money, and exploiting regulatory loopholes, the family minimizes exposure while maximizing profits. This combination of criminal savvy and business acumen demonstrates that the principles of power remain constant, even as the methods adapt to contemporary conditions. In addition to internal operations, former associates and high-level members who have left the criminal world continue to influence public perception. Figures like John Elite, a former Gambino hitman and associate, have transitioned into public life, becoming advocates, speakers, and even holding municipal positions. These individuals serve as reminders of the human dimension of the organization, illustrating the personal histories, ambitions, and transformations that shape the family's legacy. They also reinforce the cultural fascination with the Gambinos, as their stories bridge the gap between reality, mythology, and media representation. Despite ongoing legal scrutiny, arrests, and societal changes, the Gambino crime family demonstrates remarkable resilience. Their survival in the 21st century is not accidental. It is the result of decades of careful planning, strict internal discipline, and strategic adaptation. The ability to evolve from overt criminal spectacle to a more sophisticated, less visible form of influence is a testament to the enduring strength of the organization. The modern Gambinos continue to exert control in industries that are both lucrative and critical, maintaining a presence that is felt even when unseen. Ultimately, the story of the Gambino family in 2025 is one of adaptation, survival, and quiet power. While they no longer dominate headlines in the flamboyant manner of the past, their influence persists in subtler ways, through business dealings, union infiltration, gambling operations, and strategic control of local industries. Law enforcement may continue to challenge them, but the structures, strategies, and legacy built by Carlo Gambino and refined by John Gotti ensure that the family endures. In the shadows of modern New York, the Gambino name still commands respect, reminding the city and the world that power, once established, is difficult to erase, and that some empires endure by virtue of their ability to evolve rather than by their capacity for spectacle. The Gambino crime family, though quieter than in the era of John Gotti, still maintains a structured hierarchy of influence, with captains, soldiers, and associates managing the day-to-day operations that sustain the organization. At the top sits Domenico Cefalù, whose leadership since 2011 has been characterized by discretion, careful strategic planning, and a deep understanding of the changing dynamics of organized crime in New York. Cefalù is widely regarded as the official boss, yet the nature of mafia leadership is rarely singular. Figures like Lorenzo Manino exert significant influence as well, creating a subtle power balance within the family's upper ranks. Captains oversee various crews, each responsible for specific territories or business sectors, ensuring that operations such as gambling, extortion and union infiltration continue smoothly without drawing unnecessary attention from law enforcement. Beneath the captains are the soldiers, the backbone of the organization, executing orders and maintaining control within their designated areas. These members often handle the interactions with local businesses, monitor revenue streams, and enforce compliance through intimidation or coercion when necessary. Associates, meanwhile, provide support, acting as intermediaries, facilitators, or foot soldiers in various operations. This hierarchy ensures that the family maintains operational security. The bosses and captains can remain insulated from direct criminal activity while still reaping the benefits of their influence. In the modern context, this layered approach also reduces the risk of exposure, a vital adaptation in an era of advanced surveillance and digital monitoring. Despite the clandestine nature of today's leadership, certain names have emerged in public records due to arrests, indictments, or historical notoriety. Alphonse Al Trucchio, for instance, is identified as a current Gambino figure who has maintained a low profile but remains active in the family's affairs. Soldiers like Trucchio often blend into legitimate society, taking jobs in construction, painting, or small businesses, giving the appearance of ordinary life while managing illicit activities in the background. These dual identities, balancing legality and criminal enterprise, are a hallmark of the modern Gambino approach, reflecting lessons learned from the high-profile mistakes of predecessors like John Gotti, whose visibility ultimately led to his downfall. The influence of former legends who have left active crime life adds a unique dimension to the family's story. John Elite, a former hitman and high-level associate of the Gambino family, exemplifies this phenomenon. After serving time for multiple crimes, Elite transitioned into public life, becoming a community figure and even holding municipal office in New Jersey. His journey from the shadows of organized crime to civic engagement highlights the complex human narratives within the Mafia world. While no longer involved in illicit activities, former members like Elite continue to shape public perception of the Gambinos, bridging the gap between the family's violent past and the modern reality of adaptation and survival. Interesting factoids about current members provide a glimpse into the nuanced lifestyles within the organization. Many maintain ostensibly normal professions, such as working in construction firms, painting companies, or small family-owned businesses. These legitimate fronts serve multiple purposes. They generate income, provide a cover for operations, and facilitate connections within the community that can be leveraged for influence. In some cases, former soldiers and associates have pursued attempts to go legitimate entirely, investing in legal enterprises or community initiatives. This duality, balancing criminal and legal identities, demonstrates the adaptability of the Gambino family and the enduring wisdom embedded in their organizational structure. Side-by-side comparisons of old versus new members reveal both continuity and change. Photographs of John Gotti or Carlo Gambino, dressed in pinstripe suits with fedoras, contrast with modern members in contemporary business attire, often blending seamlessly into everyday society. While the outward appearance has evolved, the underlying principles of secrecy, hierarchy, and strategic influence remain intact. Maps of territories highlight the areas where crews operate, showing the careful division of labor and control over industries such as waste management, construction, and gambling. These visual tools help illustrate the ongoing reach of the family, even as their operations have become more subtle and difficult to detect. The lifestyle of today's key members also reflects a cautious approach to risk. They avoid the flamboyance that characterized figures like John Gotti, understanding that ostentation attracts attention from both law enforcement and rival factions. Modern Gambinos often live modestly compared to their predecessors, prioritizing long-term stability over immediate displays of wealth or power. Their social interactions are controlled and strategic, frequently limited to trusted circles or legitimate community engagement. This calculated discretion underscores the lessons learned over decades of criminal activity and legal pressure, ensuring that the family endures even under increased scrutiny. Another interesting aspect is the integration of technology and modern communication in operations. While traditional mafia codes emphasize in-person interactions and secrecy, contemporary members utilize encrypted messaging, private networks, and digital financial tools to manage their enterprises. This evolution allows the family to operate efficiently in a complex, high-surveillance environment while maintaining the core principles of loyalty and hierarchy. Associates may handle financial transactions, monitor gambling networks, or coordinate with captains using digital means, ensuring that bosses like Cefalu remain insulated from day-to-day exposure. Former legends and public figures serve as both cautionary tales and cultural touchstones. Elite's public transformation contrasts sharply with the continued secretive lives of active members, offering viewers insight into the diverse paths that life within the Gambino orbit can take. While some remain entrenched in criminal enterprises, others have attempted reinvention, highlighting the tension between legacy and adaptation. These stories humanize the otherwise shadowy world of organized crime, providing layers of narrative depth that resonate with both historical and modern audiences. The Gambino family's resilience is evident in their ability to maintain cohesion despite legal challenges, changing societal norms, and internal pressures. Key members today must balance the enforcement of traditional codes with the pragmatism required for modern operations. Captains supervise crews, soldiers execute plans, and associates bridge the gap between legitimate business and illicit revenue streams, all while maintaining secrecy and loyalty. The continued success of these structures ensures that the family remains a force, even if their presence is less visible than in the days of televised trials and publicized court appearances. Ultimately, the story of the Gambino family's key members today is a narrative of adaptation, discretion, and quiet influence. Leadership has evolved to emphasize longevity over spectacle, strategic calculation over flamboyance, and operational security over public recognition. By blending legitimate work, careful control of territories, and modern methods of communication, captains, soldiers, and associates continue the legacy established by Carlo Gambino and refined by John Gotti. Former legends like John Elite illustrate alternative paths, highlighting the complexity of human decisions within the mafia world and the interplay between crime, reputation, and redemption. The balance between secrecy, hierarchy, and influence ensures that the Gambino family remains a relevant force in New York's underworld. While the flashy headlines of the past may have faded, the strategic, disciplined operations of today's key members guarantee the family's continued survival and impact, Maps of territories, side-by-side visual comparisons, and subtle animations of operations all reveal a world that is meticulous, calculated, and enduring. Even in the 21st century, the Gambino name carries weight, reminding both the public and rivals that power, though adapted, remains a central pillar of the organization. The Gambino crime family's notoriety has not been confined to newspapers, courtrooms, or the streets of New York. Their story has permeated popular culture, influencing films, television, and documentaries that both glamorize and scrutinize the world of organized crime. The connection between the Gambinos and the Godfather films is particularly striking. Mario Puzo's novels and the subsequent film adaptations drew heavily on the mythology surrounding New York's five families, with Carlo Gambino's calculated leadership and John Gotti's charisma serving as archetypal models for characters like Don Vito Corleone and Michael Corleone. While the films are fictionalized, the strategies, conflicts, and family dynamics depicted echo real-life events, demonstrating the influence of the Gambino family on the creative imagination. Audiences could see the echoes of actual mafia tactics in cinematic narratives. The careful orchestration of power, the balance of loyalty and betrayal, and the intricate interplay between legality and criminal enterprise. Television series such as The Sopranos have also drawn inspiration from families like the Gambinos, exploring the tension between organized crime and personal life, morality, and legacy. The fictionalized characters mirror the structure of real mafia families, with bosses, capos, soldiers, and associates navigating operations while managing personal ambitions and conflicts. Episodes often depict extortion schemes, gambling operations, and union infiltration, strikingly similar to the historical and modern activities of the Gambinos. Writers and producers have studied court documents, biographies, and interviews to capture authenticity, translating the aura of fear, loyalty, and respect associated with the family into compelling drama. Viewers gain insight into the complexity of organized crime, not only through action and violence, but through strategic thinking, human motivations, and the burden of maintaining secrecy. Documentaries provide yet another layer of connection, offering factual accounts of the Gambino family's operations, trials, and internal dynamics. Programs often include archival footage, mugshots, courtroom recordings, and interviews with former associates or law enforcement officials. These documentaries illustrate both the spectacle and the substance of mafia life, showing how leadership, hierarchy, and operations evolved over decades. By juxtaposing real events with reenactments or cinematic storytelling techniques, the media reinforces public fascination while educating audiences about the mechanisms of organized crime. In many cases, the narratives emphasize contrasts between the flamboyant visibility of figures like John Gotti and the strategic discretion of modern leaders, highlighting the evolution of the family over time. News media has also contributed to the Gambinos' mythos, with coverage of arrests, trials, and indictments often framed in dramatic terms. Headlines announcing the 2023 and 2024 arrests, mugshots of accused members, and detailed reporting on gambling operations or union extortion feed into a broader cultural narrative. This coverage, combined with documentaries and fictionalized media, creates a feedback loop in which the public perception of the Gambino family oscillates between fear, intrigue, and fascination. People are drawn not only to the crimes themselves, but to the personalities behind them, the strategies they employ, and the ways in which they navigate both legal and illicit spheres. Film and television have also visualized key events in the Gambino story, often dramatizing moments such as John Gotti's rise to power, the trials that captivated the nation, and the internal rivalries that defined their era. Cinematic techniques, slow-motion shots, intense lighting and dramatic music amplify the tension and stakes, allowing audiences to experience the weight of leadership, loyalty, and betrayal within the Mafia context. Even in dramatizations, real events inform storytelling, lending authenticity to character decisions and narrative arcs. For instance, Gotti's public persona, his charm, and eventual conviction are frequently mirrored in characters who must balance charisma, risk, and the constant threat of exposure. Pop culture tie-ins extend beyond films and TV into literature and journalism. Books chronicling the rise and fall of figures like John Gotti, Carlo Gambino, and their associates have been bestsellers, combining investigative research with storytelling that reads like fiction. Biographies, memoirs, and exposés reveal intricate details of the family's operations, internal politics, and personalities, while also contextualizing their impact on New York City and beyond. These works often highlight contradictions, the combination of ruthless violence and business acumen, loyalty and betrayal, secrecy and publicity. Through these stories, the Gambino family continues to influence public understanding of organized crime, shaping perceptions and feeding cultural fascination decades after their most notorious acts. Even music and visual art have drawn inspiration from the Gambinos. Rap, hip-hop, and urban storytelling often reference mafia hierarchy, loyalty codes, and power dynamics, with Gambino-associated imagery providing metaphorical resonance for themes of survival, influence, and strategy. Illustrations, posters, and graffiti sometimes depict caricatures or stylized representations of historical figures, blending pop culture with criminal mythology. These artistic interpretations keep the family's image alive in ways that are both symbolic and entertaining, creating a cultural footprint that transcends the literal history of crime. Interestingly, the interplay between real-life events and media portrayals has shaped the family itself. Leaders and associates are aware of their depiction in films, TV, and news, and this awareness influences behavior. Whereas John Gotti's era was marked by intentional media exposure, modern members operate discreetly, cognizant that public fascination can amplify law enforcement scrutiny. The mythos created through pop culture, therefore, becomes both a tool and a hazard, shaping strategies and reinforcing the necessity of secrecy. Visual comparisons between actual events and cinematic interpretations highlight the connection between reality and storytelling. Archival photos of John Gotti at court, alongside recreated scenes from The Godfather or The Sopranos, illustrate parallels in character, posture, and context. Animated maps can depict territory control from historical periods alongside dramatized film scenes, showing how fictionalized narratives draw directly from documented operations. These visual tools not only enhance understanding, but also engage audiences, providing concrete connections between fact and fiction. Ultimately, the Gambino family's presence in popular culture underscores the enduring fascination with organized crime. From the streets of New York to the silver screen, their stories are interpreted, reinterpreted, and mythologized, revealing both the power of narrative and the allure of danger, loyalty, and strategy. Films, television, documentaries, books, music, and news coverage converge to create a multi-dimensional portrait of the family, one that continues to captivate audiences while offering insight into the mechanisms, personalities, and evolution of organized crime. The intersection of history and pop culture allows the Gambinos to remain relevant long after their peak operational period. By inspiring movies, shows, and books, they have transcended the limitations of the physical world, becoming symbols of strategy, power, and legacy. For viewers, readers, and creators alike, the family's story offers lessons in ambition, risk, and survival, showing how real-life crime and myth-making intersect in ways that continue to intrigue and educate. Even as law enforcement challenges modern operations, the cultural resonance of the Gambinos ensures that their legacy endures, perpetuated not only by historical record, but by the imagination of countless storytellers. From feared Mafia bosses like Carlo Gambino and the flamboyant John Gotti to today's low-profile operators, the Gambino family has demonstrated remarkable adaptability. Over decades, they have evolved from public spectacle to strategic discretion, maintaining influence through gambling, extortion, union infiltration, and legitimate business fronts. Leadership today remains layered and disciplined, with Domenico Cefalù and key captains ensuring operations continue while minimizing exposure. Former legends who have gone public, like John Elite, provide a contrasting perspective on life within and beyond the family, bridging history with modern interpretation. Their story has not only shaped the criminal underworld, but has also permeated popular culture. Films like The Godfather, television shows like The Sopranos, documentaries, books, and even music have drawn inspiration from their rise, tactics, and legacy. The Gambinos have become a symbol of strategy, power, loyalty, and adaptation. A real-life narrative that continues to captivate audiences worldwide. Even in 2025, despite arrests, indictments, and changing societal landscapes, the family remains a force in organized crime. Their ability to evolve, blend legitimacy with illicit operations, and maintain internal cohesion ensures that the Gambino name carries weight in both reality and myth. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Gambino family, don't forget to like and comment below. Tell us, which Mafia family should we explore next? Your suggestions might shape our next investigation into the world of organized crime. As we wrap up, take a moment to look at the modern New York skyline, where the shadows of history blend with the pulse of the present. Even amidst towering skyscrapers and bustling streets, the echoes of past empires linger, subtle yet unmistakable, reminding us that power, once established, leaves an enduring mark.